We're going to make some chaos today. Ever since I started this hobby, I vividly remember seeing Trent from Miscast build his Nurgle Diaries army. I remember sitting in my office, kind of stuck in the rut of art. I was drawing and painting constantly, and I didn't know where to go next. I kind of lost inspiration, and I was kind of unsure what to do. But then I ran into this guy with this channel who just put his heart and soul into making something intuitively and for fun. And that was something I thought, I want to do that. I'm not a sculptor. I'm not much of a model painter. I wasn't at the time, but I wanted to get to that point. And I didn't know when or how it would happen, but I knew all the pieces would kind of connect when they would. I would just kind of keep it in mind. When I first started buying models, I kind of got the sense of how hard it is to kitbash in a way. It's one of these things where you're putting faith into gathering parts and parts and parts of stuff. Hoarding and hoping that you're not hoarding, but also thinking maybe one day I'll use this, but not knowing if you will. It's one of those things that you gotta place some faith in. Kit bashing itself as an experience, as my first experience, was one of those things where you kind of have to just keep building off of itself and tearing apart and cutting and saying yes to one thing and no to the other and hoping that it'll work, not knowing if it will. It may look completely silly at the end. It may look amazing. This is my first kit bash ever, and I didn't expect it to come out like this, and it was absolutely a blast. And I'm going to do it again. I don't know when I will, and I don't know if I'll make this a series. I don't want to guarantee anything. But this, as the start of my Chaos Knights army, is a great start. One of the biggest things that I tried to do during this build was not restrict myself, to let everything out on the table. When I thought, oh, I'm going to make this a Slanesh themed Chaos Armiger, I immediately started losing my train of thought and not knowing where to go, and it put restrictions on the creative process, and so I pulled that out of my mind. The other thing I tried to not worry about was what would the end result look like. I just tried to simply connect the dots. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but during the filming of making this model, it's not the best amount of shots I've captured in my last couple videos, but really I was trying to keep the creative process going as organically as possible and not worry about if I was capturing shots correctly. That's one of the hardest things I've noticed with this hobby and having a camera and also painting and also building and all that stuff, is making sure the camera's aligned and making sure you guys can see, but also keeping the creative juices flowing so it doesn't kill the vibe outright. And so this one, it was more creative juices than it was camera filming. So I hope you guys can kind of forgive me on that one. It is interesting how media will play a huge part in the way I make art, how my brain will subconsciously tuck these ideas and images away to use them later in my works. And one of the things I've always been obsessed with since I was a little kid is monsters with masks. These monsters that you can't see with their faces obscured. Something like that always piques my interest. It's like candy, visual eye candy for me, and it makes me just wonder what's going on underneath all of the armor or whatever's going on. One of the biggest ones that jumps out to me was one of my first all-time favorite video games, which was BioShock and the Big Daddy character. I thought that thing was amazing. And then when I was building this, I kind of had another video game jump out at me, and that was the Boreal Dancer from Dark Souls 3. This weird kind of knightly dancer, creepy, hunched over thing with like a metal helmeted face. And that's what kind of came to mind when I finished doing the chainmail face on this model, and it just kind of connected the dots. Okay, one more monster reference. At this point, when I was spinning it around, I saw another monster in my head that jumped out. And that was, this is spoilers for the movie, so if you haven't seen the movie, skip ahead like 10 seconds, 12 seconds. For the movie Ritual, this is their monster from that movie, and it is absolutely terrifying in it. And when I saw the weapons on this thing, I thought it kind of reminded me of antlers, and I was like, there we go again. Like, the brain just either connects or knows. I don't know how, but this felt too similar for me to kind of just be like, oh yeah, you know, I made this on my own. No, there was something in my brain that was kind of putting everything together. So from here, I am going to give out some tutorial / technique stuff on the model when it comes to painting. When it came to the kit bashing, all I can say to the rest of you is collect some pieces, hang on to them for a little while. If you end up never using them, just put them in a pile somewhere or maybe throw them away. But eventually, as long as you have something to build off of and you have a little bit of time and some creative juices, you can build something great. It's just having a collection and having a vague idea of what you're going for. But for the rest of the video, let's talk about the painting method I used to get this thing going. For the flesh, I simply put down a pale flesh tone. Whatever you want, you can use, but I would suggest something pale, because we're going to go through and stain it with a red ink and a burnt umber ink, changing up the ratios here and there, and keeping it wet. Don't let it dry too much on the model. After a while, grab a paper towel and give that a nice solid dab, trying to remove the majority of the ink, and when you pull away, the result should be something like this. It gives a pale, dead, fleshy look that I absolutely think kicks total butt. On the rest of the model's fleshy bits, I painted it up with that same pale flesh, and then I added different variations of that burnt umber, sometimes even adding a purple, just to give more varying tones. You simply dab and remove what you do and don't like and keep what you would want, and you get a result like that. For the majority of the metallic colors, I chose Citadel Color Castellix Bronze and Vallejo Game Color Gunmetal. Both of these you'll see throughout the whole model. I didn't really get too complicated with the paints. Now, one of the things I will say that I did majorly wrong in this video was I started with the top objects on the model. Most of the time, I try to start the bottom up. So for instance, I would start with the lead belcher on the main body, then work my way up to the top carapace with the white, and then do the flesh colors and blood last, so we can pour on that gore on top of everything that we worked on. But with me being inspired and kind of just going with the flow and seeing what pops, I did everything out of order, and I had to go back and fix a lot of things. So take it from me, kind of think your way through the paint job at least a little bit to make your life a little easy. Now coming up is the simple but very effective oil wash that we're going to repeat multiple times on this model with different types of materials. This one is a black oil wash. We're going to cover the whole thing in this, totally drench it except for the flesh parts, and then leave that for about 15 to 20 minutes. After 15-20 minutes have passed, we're going to just take some white spirits and we're going to simply dab that onto all the oil until we take off a substantial amount, but still leave enough streaking and staining on there that it feels like it's been worn out. Oil washes are great because they get into every crevice and you can kind of control the amount going on, rather than a known oil that you might use from Citadel where you just kind of layered it on and maybe try to take away stuff as fast as possible. This, even if I didn't like it, about 10-15 minutes later I could go back and apply more white spirit. Probably an hour later I could apply more or less white spirit and take away stuff and or add stuff on like I just did right there. After we've removed all our oil washes, I'm going to go back through with that bronze and just get some of the damage, hitting the edges and using a worn out brush purposefully to add variation in the strokes and dotting and stipple. I also went back through on that lead belcher that we drenched in the oil wash and just lightly dry brushed the top edges with some silver, just to bring back some lighting and make things pop. I then went through with a weathering blue, I think it's called a patina effect and or paint, and just dabbed this all over small areas where I think rust would be occurring. Trying to keep it sporadic so it's a little natural and trying not to overdo it at all. This is one of my favorite just little spots of the model. If you can tell, this joint is caked in something underneath the paint, and that's actually super glue. And I think it kind of adds to the effect of things kind of falling apart and like getting corroded. I don't know, I kind of like that accidental effect right there. Rust Dirty Down. This stuff is so popular online, I decided to buy some and give it a shot. I first started pretty timidly applying it to one joint of the Armiger, and then I noticed it stained it, even when I added water to remove it, and I thought, screw it, I kind of like the color and how it's kind of greenish. I'm just going to apply it all over the model. So I went totally crazy on it. And since it's water soluble, I realized I could kind of treat it like an oil wash. So after applying it everywhere, I applied water in the places where I wanted to take away some and pulled a paper towel out and pulled it away, applying, reducing, and until I was happy. And this is kind of the result. The light staining and the slight hue of rust is absolutely my favorite, and for some reason to me it looks kind of greenish. I don't know why, and with that greenish hue I decided to add streaking grime on top of the carapace that we already worked on, just to kind of tie it all together. On the weapons, we basically did the same steps that we did on the main body of the model, applying in all places wherever we want solid paints like this red. And then I also tried out chipping medium on one of the Armiger blades because I wanted a little bit more control. Usually I use hairspray on my terrain pieces to do chipping, but this time around I decided to try a little bit more, something smaller and more controllable, and I was pretty happy with the result. It reacted in the same way, whereas when you put a top coat and add water, it pulls stuff off. And so yeah, I wonder if I could just get a small little bottle of hairspray separately and just do the same thing. I don't know, that might be something for a future video. After we've gotten all our desired colors and chipping effects and everything, I added a matte medium varnish to protect all the coats, did all the oil washes that we did, the black, the streaking grime, and the rust, and simply did all the reduction techniques with waters and white spirits. And then on the rest of that, I did a burner effect with some purple and blue paints on the edges of the little melt-a-guns. And now, let's get a closer look at this chaotic monster. Okay, I hope this is recording. Hi guys. Thank you to all of you who made it to the end of the video. This project was soul food for me. Like, it was one of those things where I was getting off of work and I was excited to work on an art project for the first time in a minute. Most of the time it's kind of a slog. You know, I start a project, I'm inspired, and I am inspired in that moment, and then it kind of dies. And then I got to like push myself through the rest. But this was purely like just spurts of inspiration, and it was really, really good. I think it was really stimulating for my brain, really good. And so hopefully you guys enjoyed, and you know, stick around for more stuff. If you guys haven't seen the rest of my videos, click on my channel, check them out. There's a lot of other stuff. I think we're up to 7 videos now, which is really cool. But yeah, anyways, enough talk. I'm going on tangents. As always, thank you so much for supporting me in BoxNot. Be sure to leave a like and share with your friends, and suggest down in the comments anything else that you guys would like to see, and any feedback, anything at all. Like if you guys want to see more close-up shots, or if you guys want to see more glam shots at the end, or whatever it is, you know, you guys suggest some stuff. It would be really fun to interact with you guys more and get your opinions. And yeah, anyways, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be sure to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.